A Changeling Princess. Episode 1, From a Queen's Shadow. Story by the Ninja DC.
Sun rays spill through a crevice and provide luminance to a partially caved-in cavern. The floor littered with fallen rocks, stalagmites, and stalactites that abruptly end at a debris wall that clogs the path. The crevice's light beam flickers with a winged shadow. A pink and blue butterfly gracefully descends from the crevice as a breeze flows through and whirls the butterfly around in the air. The breeze knocks several pebbles free from the debris wall and slide down its side. The pebbles tumble to a small rock pile hidden in the shadows. The pile stirs slightly as a moan emanates from within. A royal changeling hoof bursts forth from a pile and knocks free debris as a changeling silhouette rises into the shadows. The changeling silhouette falls back against the debris wall and slides down to a sitting position. The figure sighs as it raises its hoof towards the light rays.
Sister, where are you?
The butterfly gracefully lands on the extended changeling hoof, and the silhouette flinches.
Oh, it appears I have company today.
The hoof retracts, and a large, moderate cyan cat-like eye shimmers in the shadows behind the butterfly.
Why are you here? Are you not aware? Only beasts and bats reside in caves.
The butterfly stares at the changeling eye. The hoof tilts back and forward playfully as the butterfly climbs about the hoof's edge.
Your concern is admirable, but worry not. My sister has promised to return.
The butterfly flies before the eye. The changeling silhouette swooshes the butterfly away.
I said worry not. Now go before my sister returns. She is not one fond of animals.
An innocent fanged smile glistens from the changeling silhouette. The butterfly hovers as it watches the fanged smile, and the fanged smile's eyes watch the butterfly whimsically float midair. The butterfly slowly rises towards the ceiling as the eye watches. The changeling silhouette's grin fades.
It's only been but a few nights.
Dark, misty clouds float above Everfree Forest and envelop its trees in darkness and shadows. Lightning flashes through the clouds as thunder cracks. Two royal changeling silhouettes, one slightly shorter than the other, pierce through the mist and glide down to the forest canopy. The two changeling silhouettes brush along the tree line as they soar over top Everfree. The smaller silhouette's rear hoof strikes a tree branch. A giant fox, vixen-like silhouette, is hidden in the shadows below the disturbed tree branch and woken. It glances upward in a daze. The vixen yawns and jumps towards the changeling silhouette's flight direction. The vixen silhouette fades away with every leap across the treetops as a feminine laugh quietly echoes across Everfree's treetops.
This could be fun.
The vixen silhouette fades into sight as she lands on a tree branch overlooking Everfree's castle ruins. Her form is concealed in the shadows except for her green eyes that glow amongst the darkness as they gaze ahead. The changeling silhouettes touch down before the castle ruins and approach its two-sided door. The smaller silhouette sneaks up cautiously as the taller silhouette proudly struts towards it. The smaller silhouette gently pushes against one door. It creaks as it opens a crack. The second door falls down with a bang. It startles the smaller silhouette. The taller silhouette shakes its head. The moon, bearing the mare and the moon seal, gleams through a broken glass panel as clouds part in the night sky. Moonlight shines through the massive windows that encircle a roofless, deserted oval throne room. Vines crawl up cracked stone pillars. A large rock stands adjacent to a statue supporting the 6 stone orb elements of harmony. The stone remains each have their own unique gem-shaped protrusion on their sides. Lightning flashes and thunder roars as two changeling shadows flicker over the Elements of Harmony statue. A changeling hoof grazes the orb's edge.
They indeed appear to be inoperable.
A soft, evil laugh reverberates through the room.
Our biggest obstacle was removed from play eons ago. Surely that deserves some of your elusive joy.
Thunder roars as lightning floods the castle ruins with light. Chrysalis, older teens, drooping translucent green hair, stands before the ruined Elements of Harmony with an evil, joyful grin. A star spider crawls alongside Chrysalis. Chrysalis glares down at the star spider and squashes it with her front left hoof as she grins wickedly. Pupa Tinea, changeling princess, mid-teens, braided light pink translucent hair, pink insect wings, twisted horn, moderate cyan cat-like eyes, steps next to Chrysalis. Tenia glances down at the squashed spider and solemnly observes the corpse.
Was that necessary?
What?
Tenia shudders.
I mean, we are behind enemy lines. This is no time to monologue the plan. What if...
Chrysalis wraps her front leg around Tenia's neck in a loose hug and shakes her head.
Where did I go wrong with you? There is no such thing as behind enemy lines for us. And besides, we're well above any threat from ponies.
Chrysalis chuckles playfully.
Also, sweet sister, please learn to lie better. It's embarrassing for a changeling of your rank to be such an amateur at deceit.
Tenia slides out from Chrysalis's grasp.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Chrysalis disinterestedly points at a crushed spider. Tenia whimpers and glances away from Chrysalis. She peers out a broken window as ominous dark clouds block out the moon, and two bright green eyes glimmer in the darkness. A fox silhouette stands effortlessly on a thin tree branch overlooking a window in the castle ruins.
The kind innocent or the narcissistic villain? Both would make entertaining protagonists, but...
Lightning flashes as thunder cracks. The vixen figure narrows her vision on Tenia as she peers through the window. The vixen smiles unnaturally wide. Tenia stares at the green eyes as a white crescent smile grows below them and glimmers in the darkness. She shudders. Chrysalis nonchalantly cleans the dirt out from under her left hoof. Chrysalis blows dirt off her left hoof and lowers it.
Don't fret, sweet sister. I find your compassions quite entertaining.
She notices Tenia peering out the window, ignoring her.
Tenia?
Tenia jolts and faces Chrysalis.
Yes?
As I was saying, now is a time for celebration.
Chrysalis strikes the Elements of Harmony statue. A hairline crack spreads up from its base.
Nothing can stop us now. After these silly pony games, this kingdom will be mine.
Chrysalis raises a hoof and tightens it like a fist.
And that's just the bonus to wiping out those filthy birds.
Chrysalis relaxes her posture.
So celebrate, sweet sister, because
Chrysalis struts towards the room center.
this night has been quite impeccable.
Oh no.
Tenia facehoofs herself.
For at dawn your mind was skeptical.
Tenia rolls her eyes.
And she calls my habits weird.
Tenia nervously searches her surroundings. Chrysalis boldly steps onto the Elements of Harmony statue.
But now it is given, the end of the griffin.
Dozens of magical searchlights shoot down from the cloudy sky and move through the castle ruins. One beam lands on Chrysalis and Tenia and blinds them.
Halt, you are trespassing in a restricted area. Identify yourselves at once.
Tenia glances to Chrysalis, and Chrysalis glares at Tenia.
Not one word.
Tenia cowers. A breeze blows through a steep, narrow canyon as its rocky cliff sides creak. Gravel and dust blow downward into a dark abyss. Two changeling silhouettes soar through the gorge and create wind torrents that shake the cliff. 8 flying golden chariots with 2 unicorn soldiers pulled by 2 pegasi chase after the silhouetted shadows. The unicorns zap lightning bolts towards the shadows in rapid succession. Chrysalis dodges a lightning bolt that explodes on the cliffside to her right. She turns her head around and sticks her tongue out. Tenia watches Chrysalis as she glides below her. Tenia frowns.
Are you trying to antagonize them?
Chrysalis chuckles as she barrel rolls to avoid another bolt.
I'm not trying. I'm succeeding if you have not noticed.
3 chariots fly in a tighter formation.
It's all too amusing. These fools believe their puny pony magic can stop us.
The chariot unicorn pairs place their horns together. Their horns glow fiercely as magic spheres, overflowing with electricity, grow before them. Tenia glances back at the fused magic spheres, and her eyes bolt open.
Sister!
The magic spheres rocket forward. Chrysalis rolls her eyes.
Don't spoil my fun, Tenia.
The 3 magic missiles spin as they shoot towards Chrysalis. They collide with each other and fuse into a massive orb radiating red sparks above Chrysalis and Tenia.
Their ignorance is...
The magic sphere explodes above Chrysalis like a massive firework. Crimson lightning bolts shoot out from the explosion. Tenia clumsily dodges a red bolt that soars next to her. 1 lightning streak slams into Chrysalis's back, and she screams as electricity courses through her body. The electricity fades as Chrysalis tumbles silently towards the gorge's bottom, covered in scorch marks. Tenia begins to dive after Chrysalis, and dodges a magic lightning bolt. Tenia halts and hovers in the air as rage fills her face. She turns towards the pursuing chariots, and glares at them with a threatening aura.
Freeze.
The Pegasi and unicorns freeze motionless midair as their chariots continue forward, uncontrolled. Chrysalis tumbles, unconscious, down into the gorge's abyss. A loud, metallic crash sound explodes from above. Chrysalis's eyes flutter open slowly. Water rapids roar at the gorge's bottom. Chrysalis's body jolts, and she tries to stabilize her fall as she falls closer and closer towards the river. Tenia snatches Chrysalis and lifts her skyward. Chrysalis and Tenia streak along the water's surface. Chrysalis breathes heavily. Chrysalis's breathing calms as she glares up to Tenia.
You're late.
Lightning flashes off a cliffside that opens up to a large-mouthed cave, partially concealed under vines. Tenia, supporting Chrysalis on her shoulder, flies down to the cave's entrance. They brush away some vines from the cave's mouth. Eerie green light reflects off damp stalagmites and stalactites, and gives the cave a neon glow. Chrysalis's twisted horn burns with a dark green flame as Tenia helps her walk through the cave. Small emerald fires form a pathway before them.
Thanks, sweet sister, but...
Chrysalis confidently stumbles free from Tenia's grasp. She turns towards Tenia and raises Tenia's chin with her hoof.
Your love is all I'll ever need.
Chrysalis limps ahead, and her horn glows brighter. Tenia enviously watches Chrysalis as the green flame pathway stretches forward out of sight. Chrysalis glances back at Tenia.
Though I admit it might prove useful if I'm not the only one casting our spells.
I'm not you.
Of course not. There is only one of me.
Tenia turns away from Chrysalis.
The spells make me ill.
Chrysalis sighs and weakly hovers over to Tenia. She elbows Tenia's side.
Tenia, you just need more practice.
I believe you mean embarrassment.
Chrysalis chuckles as Tenia sulks.
Regardless of past failures, you're still a changeling, sweet sister. You can be whatever you want.
Chrysalis grins boastfully.
Well, except Queen. So stop with this melancholy act and be useful. Our plan is so close to fruition, I can taste their misery already.
Chrysalis raises a hoof into the air and tightens it like a fist.
The Griffin Kingdom's fate will be sealed before these ponies begin their silly Cloudsdale games.
Chrysalis rubs Tenia's mane and messes it up.
And don't worry, when all is said and done, you'll have plenty of toys to feed upon and get plenty of practice.
Tenia looks up uncertainly.
Thanks, but we're still trapped in a cave.
A searchlight shines through a crack in the cave's ceiling.
Please, a minor setback.
Chrysalis strikes the cave's wall, and a crack fractures ahead into the darkness.
Soon we'll make those glorified pigeons pay.
The wall crack spreads to a hanging stalactite.
And these pestering ponies as well.
The cracked stalactite breaks from the ceiling and falls to a soft thud. A monstrous stomach growl echoes through the cave, and Tenia and Chrysalis's eyes bolt open. They slowly turn their heads to look further down the cave's path. A pair of green reptilian eyes slowly open in the shadows. 3 more pairs follow in quick succession. The cave trembles below Tenia and Chrysalis's hooves. 4 hydra heads shoot out from the darkness before Tenia and Chrysalis and roar in near unison. Tenia, pale as a ghost, glances over to Chrysalis.
Does this count as a major setback?
Chrysalis growls.
Quiet!
Chrysalis's horn glows bright green.
I've got to uneven this beast's head count.
The hydra lunges forward at Chrysalis and Tenia.
That's ill-advised.
Sunlight shines into Tenia's closed eyes, and slowly flicker open as Tenia glances around. Tenia struggles to stand alongside the debris wall. One wing, trapped under a large boulder, pulls her flat onto the ground. Tenia exhales on the cave's floor and blows dust into the air. Pebbles crackle across a debris-littered cave floor. Tenia groans, unconscious, alongside a caved-in wall with her right wing crushed under a large boulder in the debris. Her eyelids flutter in a dream. Chrysalis, exhausted, walks before Tenia, exhaling loudly. She gazes down at the boulder crushing Tenia's wing. Her horn sparks green briefly. The boulder restraining Tenia is enveloped in faint green light as the boulder stirs and knocks loose some pebbles. Chrysalis cringes in pain, and her horn's glow fades in an instant. The magic aura around the boulder disappears, and the boulder creaks back into place. Tenia flinches as Chrysalis watches her. Chrysalis bites her lip as she turns around and walks towards the cave's exit. Tenia's eyes flicker open slightly.
Sister?
Chrysalis stops and glances back at Tenia. She smiles artificially.
Don't worry. I'll return with aid in due time, sweet sister.
Chrysalis disappears into the cave's shadows.
However, the plan must not stop. Not now, not ever.
Tenia lays flat on the cave's floor, staring into the distance. A rock's crack echoes through the cave. Tenia excitedly looks up and peers around the cave's empty ruins. Tenia frowns and lays her head back down. A blue and pink butterfly descends from the ceiling's crack. It flutters down towards Tenia. She spots the butterfly and stretches out a hoof that the insect gracefully lands on. Tenia pulls her hoof close to her face and sighs.
As I've explained, your compassion is unnecessary. My sister will return in due time.
The butterfly flaps its wings before Tenia, and Tenia grins slightly.
Though, I do appreciate the company.
Featherwild, teenage Pegasus, golden yellow coat, unkept orange and yellow mane, red eyes, black bat under a magnifying glass cutie mark, silently watches Tenia tilt the butterfly on her hoof playfully.
That's hectic.
Tenia's eyes jolt open. She mechanically pans her head towards Wild. He waves towards her.
Hello!
Tenia screams and lunges backward onto the rubble wall. She frantically tries to push herself away from Wild and trips over her trapped wing. Wild observes her trapped wing as Tenia tries to painfully yank herself free.
That's quite the pickle.
Tenia hyperventilates as she watches Wild study the rock binding her wing.
Who are you?
Wild presses his hoof against the rock.
Featherwild, biologist, ever-free explorer, and... nah, that's not important.
Wild tilts his head up the debris wall's length and scratches under his chin in thought.
So, how are the Freds doing?
Tenia twists her head, confused.
Fred?
Fred. Fred with a double D. Freddy and Frederick.
Tenia glances backward towards the wall, turning pale.
I'm afraid all I found in this cave was a hydra, but maybe they already left.
So you have met. How were they? It's been months since I last checked in.
Tenia's eye twitches.
Surely you jest.
Wild paces before Tenia.
I mean, they get by fine on their own. Well, excluding when they fight themselves.
Wild springs before Tenia, and she jolts back.
So, are they eating well?
Wild waits for Tenia's answer, staring at Tenia with puppy dog eyes. Tenia raises an eyebrow.
Fortunately, no.
Wild steps back and paces the cave as he mumbles to himself. Tenia cautiously watches Wild. Her body flinches.
You just need more practice.
Tenia perks up and raises her hoof to speak. She freezes with her hoof halfway up.
No, it won't work.
It will. You're my sister, after all. Now grow a backbone.
Tenia straightens her posture, gulps, and forces a smile.
I can do this.
So do it.
Tenia turns towards Wild as he observes the debris wall.
Oh, hey there, Mr. Handsome.
Wild brushes his hoof along the boulder trapping Tenia, and carefully examines the rock with his full attention.
I told you my name's Featherwild. But Wild's fine, and preferred.
Right, Mr. Featherwild. I know you want to do the right thing because you're handsome and strong.
Wild freezes and glances over to Tenia.
And handsome, big, strong guys are always nice to every pony, right?
Wild cautiously walks over to Tenia.
I'm sure a handsome, strong stallion
Wild waves a hoof slowly back and forward in front of Tenia's eyes as her eyes track the movement.
Oof, bats. How hard did you hit your head? Are you seeing double?
Tenia's face turns beet red, and she smacks away Wild's hoof. Wild rubs his slapped hoof.
I take that as a no.
A small rock whacks Wild across the head, and he collapses onto the ground. Tenia exhales loudly as she stands over Wild with a rock in her hoof. Pebbles slide down the debris wall as Tenia talks to the pink and blue butterfly in her hoof. Wild lays unconscious on the floor. His back leg twitches like a dog. Tenia glances down to Wild and groans.
Oh,
She turns to the butterfly.
I know it was foolish. You don't need to remind me.
The butterfly stares at Tenia. Tenia sighs and massages her head.
I just don't know what came over me.
The butterfly watches Tenia sulk.
Well, how exactly could a lone Pegasus help anyway?
Tenia sighs.
Without getting me arrested.
Wild's front right hoof shoots into the air.
Lever and fulcrum.
Tenia's eyes widen as they dash down towards Wild. She jolts away from him as he leans up.
Haven't you ever seen Phil Hay the Science Cult?
Exotic bird calls fill the air outside the cave's entrance. A small, natural, gravel-covered clearing stretches outward from the entrance and fades into Everfree's tree line. Tenia leaves the cave at a rapid pace, with Wild tagging along behind her.
You seriously never heard of Phil Hay, Tenia?
Tenia sulks.
Pupa Tinea, and no, I have not.
Fascinating.
Tenia stops suddenly in the clearing center, and Wild nearly collides with her. She turns towards him and formally bows.
Thank you, but I truly must be on my way.
Tenia turns around and fully stretches out her wings. She cringes as they unfurl. Wild raises his hoof in protest.
I don't think...
Tenia leaps into the air. Wild covers his eyes.
That's a good idea.
Wild flinches as a loud thud erupts before him.
Bats. I bet that hurt.
Wild slowly lowers his hooves, shielding his eyes. Tenia lays face first at the end of a gravel trail. Her mane is distraught and partially covers her face. Tenia coughs out dust as Wild steps alongside her.
You're no pony, but I've been around my fair share of sprained wings in Cloudsdale. You're grounded for a while.
Tenia blows a stray hair strand off her face and groans. Wild finishes wrapping bandages around Tenia's closed wings. Tenia nervously pulls herself out from Wild's reach.
Thank you, but I truly must be on my way.
Wild flies before Tenia.
What's the rush? Surely my company is not that poor.
Tenia circles around Wild. Wild frowns like a sad puppy.
It's private.
Tenia walks to the clearing's edge and peers into the forest's overgrowth. A wind gust rustles exotic tree limbs and vines in a foreboding manner.
Cult friend?
Wild sulks and flips open a torn and mended saddlebag on the ground next to him. Tenia blushes.
What? No.
Wild packs the bandages into his saddlebag, overflowing with safari gear, including a broken compass, graffiti-covered map, and wiggling plant and animal samples.
It's a private family affair.
Wild closes his saddlebag securely.
Oh!
Wild grins and scratches his head nonchalantly.
Well, then, I'm trekking through Everfree as well.
Wild puts on his worn saddlebag as he walks next to Tenia.
I could guide you safely out.
Tenia glances at Wild's wings.
Wouldn't you prefer to fly?
Wild nervously glances towards the sky as his ears bend downward.
No, not really.
Tenia raises an eyebrow. Wild pans a hoof towards the Everfree as a colorful bird lands on a tree branch near a thorny vine.
Why miss this majestic wonderland?
The vine snatches the bird and yanks it away as feathers explode outward.
So, what do you say?
Tenia glances to Wild as he stares back with puppy dog eyes. She stares back emotionless with a poker face.
No.
Tall grass grows between old, twisted trees as their tangled branches block out most of the sunlight. Tenia pushes herself forward through grass with her front hooves and stops on a clearing's edge. A grin grows across her face as she gazes forward. A poison joke grove cuts a path through Everfree's overgrowth. Tenia exhales a deep breath.
It seems fate can be kind on occasion.
Tenia looks down the poison joke pathway and sees a bunny hop out from a bush. The bunny hops to a poison joke flower and sniffs it curiously before devouring the flower in one gulp.
Aww.
The bunny mutates into a beastly, snarling bunny several times its original size. It turns towards Tenia and roars. Tenia's mouth gapes open as her eyes, as wide as saucers, observe the bunny. The bunny hops into the forest overgrowth. Panicked animal calls erupt from the bunny's path. Tenia carefully tiptoes around each poison joke plant, keeping a yard between her and them. Wind blows along the path and rustles the poison joke leaves. Tenia leaps into the air and bolts ahead. Tenia shoves through thin green and purple vine clusters as she treks through a vine canopy.
After all, it's only a forest.
Tenia brushes aside a vine, and it curls itself up. The vine springs out at Tenia and strikes her on her bandaged wings, and she screeches. Tenia turns around and glares at the vine as it winds itself up in unison with several dozen other moving vines. Tenia's right eye twitches. Tenia exhales as she staggers into a small clearing before a cliff drop, her eyes half closed. Tenia lowers a leg onto the cliff's edge and trips. She frantically drops flat to the ground and clings to the cliff's edge. Tenia glances ahead and sees a dead tree leaning over the chasm, barely standing. Tenia glances up to her horn. Her horn glows pink. Tenia closes her eyes and strains to use magic. Her horn shines brighter and flickers erratically.
Just one simple levitation spell.
Tenia squints, her eyes shut harder. Veins appear on her forehead. Tenia's horn stops glowing instantly. Her eyes bolt open, and she frowns as a dead leaf lands on her nose. The dead tree stands motionless before her. Tenia sulks. Tenia pushes her way through tall grass with a leg raised, protecting her face. She glimpses a clearing through an opening in the grass, and leaps towards it. Tenia jumps out from the tall grass and lands in a gravel-filled clearing. She smirks as she stands straight, covered in foliage.
You're back!
Tenia turns pale. Wild lays down a tree branch next to the cave's exit.
Brilliant timing! I was just shipping off.
Wild tilts his head.
You did change your mind, right?
Tenia glances back at Everfree. A strong breeze stirs the trees and makes them creak. The wind subsides, and exotic animal calls erupt from Everfree. Tenia shrugs.
Yes.
Wild leaps towards Tenia with his saddlebag unfastened over his shoulders. He grabs her hoof and energetically hoof shakes.
Hectic!
Wild releases Tenia from his grasp, and her hoof briefly continues the hoof shake on its own. Wild glances over his shoulder towards the cave.
Now, let's go.
What? Why? I need to rest a short while.
No, you don't.
A hydra's roar erupts from the cave. Tenia looks daggers at Wild.
You freed the Freds.
Wild drags Tenia through the tall grass at breakneck speeds. Tenia struggles to stay afoot. Wild glances back as he runs.
Keep up, Slowpoke.
It's Pupa Tinea!
A hydra roars from behind. Wild sharply turns and drags Tenia into a grass curtain.
Don't worry, don't worry, that's
Is, but I am red right now. I'm black.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh,
Anyway.
I'm moving ahead. Oh god. Oh.
Do you see why?
Oh boy.
Why did we have to practice this episode?
Oh god.
Come on, girl. Seduce me.